Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we are breaking down the Montreal Canadiens top 10 prospects of their entire prospect pool. Now this was not an easy list to make by any means, and I literally spent the entire day, we're talking hours and hours on end, getting my information, making sure I have everything accurate as to how my top 10 is going to be, because this Montreal Canadiens prospect pool has gone significantly better over these past couple years, and is such an underappreciated one in my opinion. You have so many great names within this top 10, and even outside of it with guys that would surely land in the top 10s of opposing teams. That's just how good this prospect pool is. I can't wait to discuss it. I'm looking forward to breaking down other ones in the future, so make sure to let me know in the comments below what other prospect pools you want to see me break down regarding their top 10 prospects. But make sure you stay also till the end of this video, find out all the deets and all the information regarding the Montreal Canadiens and my picks for their top 10 prospects. But without further ado guys, let's get right into this video. Starting off at number 10, we have a Montreal Canadiens prospect that I don't think many people are talking about, but the real Habs fans know exactly who he is, and that is Joel, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Teasdale. The forward really has been impressive, and one that deserves much more credit and really has been in the shadows over this past year because he sustained a significant injury. Just over a year ago, during 2019, he suffered an ACL injury that left him out of play for at least 7 months, I believe. So he definitely took a hurt regarding his production because he was on a roll playing in the QMJHL. And this is a guy who, 21 years of age, left winger. He's 6 foot, 202 pounds. He has a big body, even though he's not overly tall in stature. He went undrafted and then was signed a couple years ago by the Montreal Canadiens. And this guy, in my opinion, can really be an impact player for the Habs, assuming that he fully recoups from the injury that he sustained over a year ago, because it was a significant one. Time will tell, because he looks like he will be making that jump to the AHL now, but I'm very excited to see what the future holds for him. And in the 18-19 season before his injury, 29 games played, he had 24 goals, 18 assists for 42 points. The year prior, back in the 17-18 season, he had 38 points in just around the same amount of games. So overall, Joel Teasdale, this is a guy that has a constant motor. From all the highlights I've seen of him and the game clips in general, he's so great with his forechecking. He hounds you night in and night out, whether it's 5-on-5, hounding you with his forecheck against the opposing defenseman, or a forward just trying to back check in the neutral zone, or on the penalty kill. He does it superbly. This guy is truly one of the best when it comes to his type of play style, and that's why I think he would fit so great with the Habs, with having this constant motor, being a fantastic forechecker, and just having a superb and strong 200-foot game. This guy isn't overly flashy with his offensive ability, but he does have strong playmaking. He can shoot the puck as well. I might want to see a little bit more out of his shooting, but I know he can shoot the puck, no doubting. He's had multiple, I believe, 20-plus goal seasons on his resume, playing the QMJHL, and overall, he's a high-energy guy. He's a physical guy. You lay out those big hits, he'll get in the nitty-gritty, he likes to get in those corners, he likes to crash the net, whether it's those tip-ins or just burying the puck, whether it's really up in front of the net in that crease. You know, he will do anything he possibly can, whether it's between possibly screening the goaltender or just helping contribute on that power play as well to make the goal scoring happen. Like I said, he hounds you night in and night out. His forechecking is literally ridiculous. Watch this guy's highlights. He will make you so tired, and if he can really hit the NHL level, which I'm hoping he can, but I think that definitely goes in hand with how will he progress after this significant ACL tear or injury, whatever it was. That will be the biggest question for him, but I like him a lot, and he really gets the edge over some prospects. So you might be wondering, why aren't they on this list? But I think Teasdale has plenty to give, and possibly at the NHL level as a bottom 6 contributor, and would just be great for a team, especially in a playoff mentality, which is what the Habs are going to be over these next couple of years, as they have a great balance of veteran leadership and youth. Next up, at number 9 for the Montreal Canadiens, we have right-hand defenseman Josh Brook. Josh Brook is a prospect that many were coveting big time in his final year playing in junior, which he had a career-high season with 75 points, including 16 goals and 59 assists. Things have kind of trended downward, however, this past year. Playing in the AHL, things really did not pick up the pace when it comes to his overall point production, among other things. But Josh Brook, the 21-year-old right-hand defenseman, he's 6'1", 192 pounds. He was drafted in the second round back in 2017 by the Habs, if I didn't mention that already. And in the AHL this past year, in his first professional season, playing in North America out of junior, and 60 games played at 13 points, including 4 goals and 9 assists. So Brook, some things to look at. He is great when it comes to his offensive ability. He has the skating. He has those slap shots / slap pass. He really brings an unprecedented thing in the game of hockey today that really isn't as prevalent, but he has done that, especially at the junior level. But his transition definitely was not easy, hitting the ice with Lavelle playing in the AHL. He couldn't get that offensive production going, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt. He's only 21 years of age. It's impressive enough to be that young playing in the AHL, so I think that there is still definitely some promise with him. I think when it comes to ceiling, you're probably looking at a third pairing defenseman at best as of right now. He is an intelligent passer. He can be that power play quarterback. He proved it big time during his time in juniors, but he has yet to show that offensive ability, that assist making, and even some of that goal scoring at the AHL level. But again, I will give him the benefit of the doubt because it was his first year really playing pro. He is kind of suspect in his transition game, as I mentioned, and he's aggressive though. He has that aggressive game going in the offensive zone when it comes to pinching on the blue line, but it can be costly, and that really could cause him to be backtracking, and then before you know it, maybe it's an odd man rush the other way. So Josh Brook, he has a great talent when it comes to his game, but is raw in many aspects. So he's one where many guys and fans of the Habs had him higher on their board just over a year ago. But this first year in the AHL is somewhat underwhelming. I'm not going to put too much on it just because it is his first year. But when it comes to ceiling, I would probably put him at bottom pairing defenseman at this point in time. We'll see if he can really have an upgrade season next year, as he will be competing to try to make that bottom pair spot for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't think it'll happen, but he will be competing in camp along with some other defensemen that I'm sure you will see me discuss in this video. Next up at number 8, we have left-hand defenseman and Jayden Struble. Struble is a really interesting prospect, another one that's raw in certain aspects of his game, but has a lot of promise as well, depending on how you look at him. Originally drafted back just a year ago in 2019 in the second round, Struble, 19 years of age, he's 6 foot, 194 pounds, and this guy is a monster. Don't let his height phase you. He is so aggressive. He has such a strong upper body. He was fantastic leading up to the draft last year when it came to the bench press and everything. He was really laying it up, and he has not skipped a beat thus far in his young hockey career. He was aggressive, throwing big highlight reel hits in his time in high school, and then hitting the college level, which he has done this past year, playing his first year in Northeastern in college. He didn't skip a beat. He's still providing that type of aggressiveness. It's just a matter of balancing out that game and not getting too aggressive at times that could lead you to possibly having an odd man rush to the other end because you're throwing your body around too much. But he has a great set of skills, and let's just look at him on the forefront. In 21 games played this past year, in his first year in actual college hockey for Northeastern, he had 3 goals and seven assists for 10 points. Struble, he's a strong, aggressive defenseman, as I mentioned. He has great acceleration too. If you watch him from some of his highlights or his games, then you will know that once he can get that puck up going, he can really excel past that neutral zone into the offensive zone and try and make some things happen. He's a smooth passer as well. Nothing overly flashy or anything like that. He's a pretty balanced defenseman. He has a strong transition game as well, but again, rough around the edges in certain aspects of his game, but nothing too serious. He definitely has some significant promises and is one that you can maybe even argue as a ceiling past that third pairing defenseman. It's kind of hard for me to commit there at this point in time, but I thought he had a very strong year. Racking up 10 points in 21 games in Northeastern is nothing to be upset about, and I think that was great for his progression going forward. So you can probably expect at least another year of him playing in college hockey, because I don't believe he signed his ELC. If he did, let me know in the comments below, but I don't believe he has. So expect another year for him in college at least, and then to make that jump to actual pro hockey, whether it's in the AHL or the NHL, depending on his development. But a guy that many people should be excited about. I think there's a lot more promise with him than maybe the eye exactly shows you, but nonetheless, he can be that possible power play quarterback as well, but it's not something you're necessarily going to have to bank on, especially with a lot of the other puck moving defensemen the Habs already have. But nonetheless, again, Jayden Struble, keep an eye on him. A really intriguing prospect, a big body with acceleration, can make some great things happen in the offensive zone. And when it comes to man-on-man, he's definitely hard to go up against, not just because of his aggressiveness, but his overall defensive game. So be on the lookout for Struble. I think he's going to have a fine career in the NHL, assuming he hits there. Next up, at number 7, we have a guy that one could argue is probably deserving of being higher in this list, and I understand that argument, but it was really hard for me to justify it after I was breaking down and really reviewing all these prospects, because there are some guys that I just can't justify putting out of that top 5 per se. So Jan Mysak, the forward centerman slash winger, but really played center when he transitioned to the OHL this past year, was drafted in the 2nd round by the Montreal Canadiens this past year, 2020 NHL draft class. Mysak, I was really high on going into the draft, had first round potential in the bottom half of that first round, ends up landing in the 2nd round. Big time for the Habs. What a steal for them. And this is a guy that has such pure potential, but again, like some of these other prospects, is very raw in parts of their game, which is why I have him here at 7. If he wasn't, say, as rough around the edges with some certain things I'll be touching on in a minute, I would definitely have him higher, at least to number 6. But again, Mysak, 18 years old, 5'11", 175 pounds, again, drafted in the 2nd round this past year, and 22 games in the OHL this year. Coming from Czech, he had 15 goals, 10 assists for 25 points. He also did play in the Czech League in 26 games played, had 5 goals, 4 assists for 9 points. So halfway through the season, he went to North America to play in the OHL with the Hamilton Bulldogs, I believe, and really, he played strong. That is the biggest factor into why he skyrocketed as of late regarding the draft rankings, and really, many believe was deserving of being a first round talent, as did I. So take that into account. He has played 1 game thus far, playing for Czech, and he doesn't have a point. There isn't much more to it, but that's fine. And also, last year, when it comes to the 2018-2019 season, he had 7 points in 31 games. So consistency has been lacking with Jan Mysak, which is one of the biggest reasons why I have him here at 7. But when it comes to his hands, he has great hands. He has great shooting ability. He knows how to pick his corners in the offensive zone. And it's really the matter of him rounding out his game, finding that consistency, and being able to pick up the pace on a constant basis. It's really as simple as that. When it comes to his playmaking, he is strong there, but he didn't look great during his time in the OHL. Like, he had a strong percentage rate when it comes to, say, passes that did miss as a centerman when it comes to his playmaking ability. So there are things that he needs to upgrade there. But when it comes to his pure potential and ceiling, that is why there's so much reasons to be excited about Jan Mysak, because he has superior skating as well. It's nothing overly flashy, but when he wants to kick in that motor and show that acceleration, he will do it. Again, it's just about balancing it all out and doing it on a consistent basis. But when it comes to say his transition game, it's decent. It's nothing overly exciting or anything like that, but he's a nimble skater as well. He has that aggressive offensive ability, but he could be backtracking not so great going the other end, depending on how much he is being aggressive in that offensive zone. But when it comes to his vision, his agility, really trying to make things happen in that offensive zone, he's quite superb in that aspect. And there's, again, so many reasons to be excited about Jan Mysak. He has pure potential for sure. It's just a matter of, again, rounding out his game. And if he can do that, he definitely has top 9, really top 6 potential to be a great forward for the Montreal Canadiens in the near future. I'm curious to see how long he'll be playing in juniors. He's a guy who I could see possibly hitting the NHL without playing much of any AHL time, as long as he can round out his game. That's how coveted this guy is, and there's definitely arguments to be had to have him in, say, their top 6 or top 5 of this list, but here I respectfully have him at number 7. Next up, at number 6, we have one of my favorite prospects out of this entire prospect pool for the Habs, and that is left-hand defenseman Jordan Harris. Jordan Harris is a guy that really tends to get overlooked given how well they've done in this past year's draft for the Habs' sake, but keep an eye on him big time. The 20-year-old defenseman, 5'11", 185 pounds, originally drafted in the 3rd round back in 2018, playing for Northeastern this past season in 33 games played, had 3 goals, 18 assists for 21 points, and is really a guy who would have had more point production should the opportunities present itself, but they just haven't in his time with Northeastern, at least to an extent, given the other great talents that they have on that roster. The year prior, however, he had 13 points in 39 games, so very strong numbers. And when it comes to Jordan Harris, without looking any further, he is just so smooth and mature for his age. He really doesn't do much of anything wrong, and that is really why I have him here at 6 over guys like Mysak. When it comes to Mysak and Harris, I know they're different positions and different stories, whatever it may be, but Harris is a guy that is so composed and could really be an effective defenseman at the NHL for a very, if not much, prolonged career when you look at him on the forefront. He's a swift skater. He's very nimble. He's very agile. He's not overly powering when it comes to his speed, but he just does everything right. He doesn't need to be overwhelming when it comes to his speed game by any means. He makes the right decisions. He slows down the game a little bit, and he's just so composed with everything he does on the ice, whether it's in the offensive or the defensive zone. He's such a well-balanced D-man. As I mentioned, he has strong playmaking ability. He will definitely take his time in the offensive zone to wait for the right pass, wait for the right shot, and time everything just to the T. Like, I cannot say enough good things about this guy when it comes to Jordan Harris. If there's a guy that I really feel is going to make quite the impact at the NHL level out of this entire prospect pool, Jordan Harris is right up the list. So when it comes to ceiling, in my mind, Jordan Harris is definitely a top 4 defenseman, has that potential to be a top line defenseman, but I'd probably say top 4 at this point in time, and be a very effective one, a reliable one that is going to be great with whoever he's paired with. He really cares about the guys that he's going to be working with. So if he has a guy that's, say, more offensively minded, he will help them out more on the defensive front, and same thing vice versa. So Jordan Harris is a guy that you can feel comfortable with if you were, say, his pair on that defensive front, or just in the offensive zone as a forward trying to get the puck moving on the power play or 5-on-5. You know, he's a guy that can command the power play if you need him to, but I don't think it's something the Habs will necessarily venture too much. I could be wrong, and that's perfectly fine. I'm really unsure when it comes to that aspect of his game, but he has strong man-to-man coverage as well. It is not easy to get around this guy at all, and really is just so nimble and so precise in his decision-making. I cannot stress that enough. Jordan Harris, a great young defenseman, and I'm very excited to see him hit the NHL sooner rather than later. Next up, at number 5, we have a guy that many feel kind of up in the air about, or they really covet him or they don't really covet him, and that is newly drafted prospect from the first round, I believe 16th overall, and Cayden Guhle for the Montreal Canadiens. Guhle, again, he's 6'2", 186 pounds, only 18 years of age, the left-handed defenseman drafted in the first round, as I mentioned, playing in the WHL this past year in 64 games played, had 11 goals, 29 assists for 40 points. The year prior, however, in 65 games played, he had 17 points, including 3 goals and 14 assists. When it comes to Guhle, he's a really interesting prospect because he displays that ability as more of an old school kind of stay-at-home defenseman, but he has very sneaky and deceptive offensive ability. He's not afraid to be aggressive and bring up the rush in that offensive zone, but his transition game is probably where things get very iffy with him as of now. He definitely lacks in that transition game at times. If he gets too overzealous in that offensive zone, he could find himself backtracking more often than not. So he is a guy where, as long as he can kind of figure out his game rough around the edges in that transition aspect and just maybe hone in more so on his stay-at-home game, that's just a possibility, then I think great things are going to happen for Cayden Guhle. He easily, in my mind, has that top 4 potential for sure, and he's patient with his decision-making as well, similar to Harris in that aspect, if not better, because of just how precise he is with the decisions he makes, coming from that defensive zone into the offensive zone, or just in the offensive zone in itself, whether it's 5-on-5 or on special teams, whatever it may be. He can be sneaky offensively, as I mentioned, and will really wow you at times where you didn't really expect this to come out of a guy like him. He's really strong when it comes to skating and his speed at 6'2", 186 pounds currently. So don't let his size phase you. He's not slow by any means. He's not necessarily crazy agile either, but he makes the right plays. He is very precise with his play overall, and that is really why I have him here in the top 5, along with the fact of him being a defenseman drafted as high as he was in this draft class that was so coveted, so deep, offensively speaking as well. So take these things into account. A guy like Guhle is not being drafted in the first round unless there's a lot of promise and a lot of potential with him, and I believe there is just that when it comes to his overall game. He's a superb skater, as I mentioned, and a strong passer as well. His hockey IQ is just really up there. And again, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him going forward once he hits the pro level, whether he plays some time in the AHL or if he just makes that jump to the NHL right away, whenever that may be. I'm curious to see what he is going to do, but he's just one of the many defensemen that we have discussed in this list and beyond what I've even discussed when it comes to having great depth in this prospect pool for the Montreal Canadiens. Cayden Guhle, a secure pick, a reliable pick. Rough around the edges a little bit when it comes to his transition game, but other than that, I think he definitely has a bright future and could be a great pairing for, say, a more offensively minded defenseman and for him to stay back because he's very strong in his own zone. So be on the lookout for Cayden Guhle. He's a guy that definitely has a bright future with the Montreal Canadiens. Next up at number 4, we have easily the best story out of this entire prospect pool, and that is Cayden Primeau. This guy, originally drafted in the 7th round back in 2017, 6'3", 198 pounds, a 21-year-old, has literally been on fire these past couple of years. Since really playing in college for Northeastern, like I mentioned multiple times in this video already, did not skip a beat. Just in the 2018-2019 season when playing with Northeastern, his final year there, I believe he played 2 or 3 years, I think just 2 though, had 25 wins, 10 losses, and 1 overtime loss, a goals allowed average of 2.09, and a save percentage of 933. He, as a 21-year-old, might add, played in the AHL this year and had a great season, a debut season as a 21-year-old playing in pro hockey like the AHL. In 33 games played, he had 17 goals, 11 assists, not 17 goals. In 33 games played, he had 17 wins, 11 losses, and 3 overtime losses. A goals allowed average of 2.45 and a save percentage of 908. Those are so impressive numbers for a guy that not just was drafted in the 7th round, but is a 21-year-old playing pro hockey already. That is unbelievably impressive and is nothing to scoff at, and is really a huge factor into why he's in this top 4 without question. He also had a cup of coffee in the NHL this past season playing 2 games. He had 1 win and 1 loss, had a goals allowed average of 2.52 and a save percentage of 931. Cayden Primeau, he plays really well when it comes to his size. Being at 6'3", just under 200 pounds roughly, he is a guy that is very nimble. He's much faster than maybe what you would think given his size and stature. He has strong vision as well. He really has a decent to significant rebound control. The things that lack in his game a little bit, sometimes he gets caught short side, if you will, but maybe it is those wraparounds here or there. But for the most part, Cayden Primeau is kind of the complete package. He's so mature for his age, and when it comes to goaltenders, they're so up in the air as to what are they going to develop with. It doesn't matter really if you draft them 1st overall or in the 7th round, as you can see. And Cayden Primeau is really being a prime example as to why goaltenders, where they're being drafted, only means so much as long as they stay committed and continue to develop their game year after year. What he has done in a short period of time since being drafted in 2017 is truly phenomenal. And again, he's a guy that can come in probably in a couple years once that Jake Allen contract is done, because I believe they signed Allen to an extension, right? So assuming that Allen is a backup for at least 2 more years unless they trade him, Cayden Primeau is going to come in the reins, and he's a guy that really could probably be the backup as soon as next year, but because of Allen, he's not going to be. That's fine. Give him some more seasoning. He's a guy that you'll probably see more as an NHL regular once he hits, the age of 23, 24, which is fine when it comes to goaltenders. They normally take longer to develop as it is, but what Primeau has done in such a short period of time is nothing short of amazing. So be on the lookout for Cayden Primeau. He really could be the next big thing in goaltending for the Montreal Canadiens once Carey Price's time is up. Next up at number 3, we have a guy that many people are really in love with, and I don't blame them at all, and that is left-handed defenseman. Well, he can play the right side as well, but he is left-handed, I believe, and Mattias Norlinder. This is a guy that has so much potential. He's really oozing when it comes to his overall capability and talent. 20 years of age, originally drafted in the 3rd round just a year ago in 2019 by the Habs. He's 5'10", 179 pounds, playing in the SHL thus far this year, playing in 13 games played, has 3 points, including 1 goal and 2 assists. Playing in Allsvenskan the year in 2019-2020, really just this past year in 34 games played, had 18 points, including 7 goals and 11 assists. So this is a guy that you really need to keep an eye on, because it's easy to just look at, the Cole Caufields of the world, the Romanovs of the world, and even the latest draft picks in Guhle and Mysak, and get caught up with the fact that Mattias Norlinder is a stud. This guy has definitely the potential to be a top-line defenseman, in my opinion, at least, in the NHL. What he has done in a short time, playing in Sweden, of course, and now having a decent start to his career, playing his first actual year in the SHL, is awesome. He's a tremendous skater. He's so deceptive with his overall play. He goes from the offensive zone to the defensive zone to the offensive zone with so much ease. He makes so many things happen. His vision is some of the best on the ice every single time he steps on it. He has a superb transition game too, which really separates him from the rest regarding a lot of these other defensemen on this list. He's not lacking in his defensive game by any means, in my opinion, and is one that is only getting better with age, truly. Coming out like such a stud and such a steal in the 3rd round for the Habs just a year ago. when it comes to his hands, he has slick hands, smooth hands as an offensively minded defenseman, but is so strong in his own right in the defensive zone. In that offensive zone, with those hands, he can get around defensemen, opposing forwards, whatever it may be, with ease, and will make things happen all around that offensive zone. He's a power play quarterback, bringing up that rush. He's explosive when it comes to just his skating ability. It's nothing overly flashy. You know, he's not the fastest guy on the ice, but he's so nimble and so agile that before you know it, he just gets around you and you're standing there wondering what the heck just happened. You know, in 2 seconds, one pivot to the next, he's up into the offensive zone of the ice and making things happen. He's aggressive as well. He will definitely pinch up in that offensive zone, but really what separates him from the rest, as I mentioned already, is the fact that he is defensively responsible as this two-way / offensively minded defenseman. He can handle pinching up in the rush and say things go the other way. He can handle back checking and really fixing his wrongs for the most part if, say, things go awry as he pinched, being aggressive in that offensive zone. This guy has pure potential to be a top-line defenseman in the NHL. Deserves more credit, more attention than I believe he's been getting. So keep an eye on Mattias Norlinder definitely over this next year. I'm curious to see when he's going to hit the NHL. I'm assuming it'll be at least another year from now, because I don't believe he signed his ELC, but keep an eye on Mattias Norlinder. Cannot say enough good things about this guy. Just another one of multiple young Swedish defensemen in the that are going to hit the NHL over these next couple years, and boy oh boy is he going to be something. Next up at number 2, we have the legend himself, as at least that's what it is to Habs fans, and Alexander Romanov. Romanov, the left-hand defenseman, originally drafted in the second round back in 2018 by the Habs. The 20-year-old, 5'11", 182 pounds, has just been tremendous. Whether it's his play in the KHL playing for Moscow, or if it's his times playing in the World Juniors for Russia, he's been nothing short of superb, and he's going to be hitting the NHL, and he's already, in my mind, going to at least be the third pairing defenseman for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't think he's going to have much of any time in the AHL unless his play really regresses, but I think when you compare the AHL and the KHL, there's good arguments to be had, especially depending on what team you're on, that the KHL may have the upper hand. I get it, the AHL is great in its own right, but when it comes to Romanov, he's one of those that I don't believe needs much of any seasoning in any other level besides the NHL in itself. So keep that in mind. In 43 games playing the KHL this past season, had 7 assists for 7 points, and the year prior in 43 games played had 4 points. So this is a guy at 20 years of age has already gained significant games, significant playing time, and arguably the second best hockey league in all of the world. That is phenomenal. So he signed his ELC just a couple months ago, as we know. He will be with the Habs starting training camp, and he is a guy who, in my mind, will definitely be cracking that third pairing of defense. It won't necessarily be easy. He will have competition with some other guys I mentioned on this list, but I think he will come out prevailing in the end in cracking this Habs roster. And watch out. When it comes to Alexander Romanov, he has so much different aspects of his game, but similar to Mattias Norlinder, as I mentioned, he is so mature and so composed. This guy's NHL ready, no doubt in my mind, and he can contribute offensively. His numbers in the KHL may not tell you that, but once he actually gets more offensive ability and is put in those situations, he can definitely make it happen. He has a strong slap shot. He can contribute both 5-on-5 and the power play. He can really bring down the puck with some great speed and acceleration going into the offensive zone. He's another nimble, agile skater, and he lays out big hits. You would think that maybe he wouldn't be as aggressive as he is, but he is very aggressive. Whether it's along the boards going one-on-one, he'll land that hip check for sure, and he doesn't slow down. He's not a guy that misses these checks very often. He's very reliable for the type of play style that he has. He's very diverse. He's really such a well-balanced two-way defenseman that I think has much more offensive upside than the eye will tell you from when you just look at stats, at least, because again, in a bigger environment, in a bigger role with the Habs over these next couple of years, I can fully see him thriving as a true two-way defenseman in the NHL. He has very nifty hands as well. He will get around guys with ease. It really is not difficult for Alexander Romanov. And if you look at his highlights, whether it's between juniors or in times in the KHL, he's just truly lights out with his overall game. I cannot say enough good things about him. There's so many reasons to be excited, and I get it that there's the argument that maybe he doesn't have as much potential as what the hype is making out to be. There's no doubt in my mind that he has top line, top four potential, really top line. He's a guy that can be such a great balance with someone that's, say, more offensively minded or whatever it may be. I think what the Habs have in their prospect pool right now is such a good balance of different aspects of players, whether they're more offensively minded, defensively minded, more grittier, more, technical when it comes to their play. They really have it all. They have the jack of all trades, and that is a good example as to what Alexander Romanov is when it comes to his game. He is a strong slapper as well. One-on-one is fantastic. As I mentioned, his board play, chef's kiss. Can't say enough good things. But this is a guy you got to watch out. He's going to be making a hit in the AHL next year, and depending on his play, I'm not sure he'll get that point production, obviously, but it will be a tough race, but he will definitely be a consideration for the Calder next year, even with all these great rookies that are sure to hit the NHL, because Romanov is just that good, and I think he's going to make an impact as soon as he steps on the ice for the Habs. At number 1, we have the guy that everyone knew and everyone expected in forward Cole Caufield. The right winger, he's 19 years of age currently, 5'7", 162 pounds, drafted in the first round, 15th overall in the 2019 draft by the Montreal Canadiens. And when the Habs landed him at 15, I was like, thank God. I was so happy that he finally got picked, because Cole Caufield was a top 5 talent in the 2019 draft class. There's nothing you can say or do to really make me think otherwise. And like every single year that we see when it comes to NHL teams and their scouting, they consistently, year after year, overlook players given their size. It doesn't matter their point production and juniors are playing for his sake with the U.S. National Development Team. All that matters is that to an extent, but if they're too small, then it's a risk, right? No, this is not the NHL that we've been living in. When you see guys, whether it's Johnny Gaudreau falling, whether you see Braden Point, when you see Alex DeBrincat, these were all guys that were fantastic at the junior level before becoming pro. And then if you look at this year's draft as well, the 2020 draft class, and Marco Rossi, he's another example. He's a top 5 talent, but he goes to number 9 in the Minnesota Wild. It's baffling. It drives me nuts. And Cole Caufield is going to prove everyone wrong that skipped on him in the 2019 draft class. No doubt in my mind. Playing for the Wisconsin Badgers, which was a great team on paper, but just couldn't put it together. I don't know if there was too much talent there, too much personalities, what have you. Playing with guys like Keandre Miller for the New York Rangers, obviously, whether it's Dylan Holloway, who's now drafted by the Edmonton Oilers, or Alex Turgot, the coveted centerman, playing for the LA Canes now. A lot of great prospects on that team, and still, even then, Cole Caufield still put up the points like he has all of his life at every single level in his young hockey career. In 36 games played, had 19 goals, 17 assists for 36 points, point per game. The year prior, playing in the U.S. National Development Team, in his last year there, in 29 games played, had in 28 games played, I should say, had 29 goals, 12 assists for 41 points. Like, are you kidding me? And in that same year, when he played 36 exhibition games in 2018-2019, he had, get ready for this, 43 goals, 16 assists, 59 points in just 36 games. He broke the entire record for the U.S. National Development Team when it comes to goal scoring. He outscored Kessel. He outscored Patrick Kane. He outscored Austin Matthews. This guy is not going to be a bust. His size is not going to faze him. He has continued to prove people wrong, and he will do that at the NHL level as soon as humanly possible. Watch out, guys. Cole Caufield is going to be the next big thing in the NHL when it comes to goal scoring. He's a sniper at every level, as I mentioned. From the time of him just being a little kid, he was already doing it. He's been elite at every level he's been at. And I get it. He's not overly flashy when it comes to his skating, his speed ability. He's not overly flashy when it comes to his defensive game. You're not going to watch him be a defensive guru when it comes to having a great 200-foot game. That doesn't matter. This is Cole Caufield. This is a guy that will shoot the puck, whether it's on that left side with the right-hand shot, whether it's a slapper, whether it's a snapper, which we see a lot of the times, or the wristers, and he will pick those corners like no tomorrow, better than anyone else on the ice. Or if he's around the zone on that power play, making the puck work, whatever it may be, whether he crashes the net, if he gets in the net and gritty, it doesn't matter. It does not matter how the puck gets in the net for Cole Caufield, as long as it does just that. So when I talk about Cole Caufield for you today, and there are people that are doubting him on his size, he has done everything to prove you wrong. So there's no way to be thinking this way at this point in time. What he has done in his first year in college has been phenomenal, proving that he, again, is a consistent goal scorer no matter where he is, whether it's at his time in Pee Wee and juniors playing for U.S. National Development Team. Now in college, he's continuing to get better. Don't let his size phase you, because he has slick hands. He can make he's so deceptive in that offensive zone, especially with him being smaller. It's really to his advantage with being more nimble, more agile, and can get around defensemen with quite ease, honestly. He's a power play guy. Again, that right-handed shot and in that left dot is just superb. He picks those corners. Watch his highlights, man. He scores goals like you can't even think about. Really can't even comprehend. He's so agile, and just, again, I can't say enough good things about Cole Caufield between his hands, between his overall offensive awareness, and his shooting and shot ability. is some of the best in all the NHL when it comes to their prospects currently. So watch out, guys. Cole Caufield is the next big thing to hit the NHL. Thanks so much for watching, guys. It means a ton. And just to get my honorable mentions, because I've been forgetting them in previous videos when I've done my previous top 10 list for prospect pools. I have at 11 right now, I have Ylonen. I might be saying his name wrong. The forward, he has kind of been up and down thus far playing the SHL, which is why he just missed my top 10, but there is still reasons to be optimistic about him. It's just a matter of him rounding out his game and if he can transition it to North American ice and hopefully for his sake have a better career, because he has been playing bad in the SHL, but it hasn't been to what the Habs have been liking, especially over this past year. I know that for the most part. Then you have at number 12, I have Luke Tuch. Alex Tuch's younger brother was drafted this year. He's a very promising guy. Hasn't put up crazy numbers by any means in the U.S. national development team, but he's a big guy, 6'2", a good size. Reminds me of Alex in the sense where I think he will take his time to develop, but will ultimately become a very reminiscent player like his brother at the NHL level one day. Then at 13, I have Cam Hillis, the centerman, another coveted prospect. I'm curious to see what he will do past playing in juniors, because he had a great year. I believe he had 80 points or so in this past year, but again, when it comes to juniors, it is suspect. Guys can light up the lamp, especially if they are older or among other things, and just can't transition that into pro hockey. So we'll see what happens there. And then at 14, I have Sean Farrall, however you say it, another coveted guy who was drafted this past year, I believe, by the Habs. So a lot of great prospects and plenty more that I didn't even discuss. But I want to know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you agree, disagree with my list? How would you feel different about it? Please let me know, as always. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. As always, guys, thank you so much for 2K subscribers. Now let's get to 3K. I know we'll get there sooner than later because you guys are all amazing. But seriously, let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with me or disagree with me? What teams do you want to see me cover next regarding their prospect pools and their top 10 prospects, among other things, guys? Thank you all so much again. It means an absolute ton. Expect plenty more content daily on the channel going forward, and I'll see you guys real soon.